you've struggled to really get anywhere with your four-way limb independence, it's possible that there's one big issue blocking your progress. Today we're breaking down a mindset shift that has to happen in order to break down an independence barrier. You can do this. Hey everyone, welcome to the Non-Glamorous Drummer, the channel where we're all about giving you the core skills that help you know your next step so that you can take action and make progress. And hey, while you're here, check out my totally free gift to you, the 3-part daily practice routine. This is the key to making faster progress in less time by structuring your practice sessions, knowing that you're hitting the 3 core parts of successful practice so that you can confidently know, hey, I'm practicing well, I'm gonna make progress, I'm gonna get results. And that's so important. This is key to staying out of a rut and not plateauing in your playing. And so grab that guide. It's been helping so many drummers. It's gonna help you out too. And we're gonna be talking about it a little more later because it ties into today's lesson in a really cool way. So let's dig into the lesson. We're starting off conceptual today because we've got to talk about these concepts because they're super crucial and apply to anything that you're working on to improve your coordination. And rest assured, we're going to cover everything today. You're going to have everything you need. I'm going to give you some practical, concrete, specific coordination exercises and some great method books even for going after this. So you'll know exactly what to go do, what to practice. But first, we've got to talk about this mindset shift because if you don't approach these things the right way, then success is going to be very slow. And it's going to take a long time of a lot of frustration and maybe impatience with yourself. And so you've got to set some realistic expectations with building coordination. And so that's really what we want to talk about today. So here's the mindset secret, which is kind of a frustrating truth that you might not want to hear. But as non-glamorous drummers, we've got to know the truth with things. And I never want to sugarcoat anything. I want to be realistic with you. I want to be honest with you and not give you false expectations of something and not say, hey, practice this and your coordination is going to explode in 1 week. That could happen. That definitely could happen. It's not impossible, but most of the time coordination takes time. And so here's the truth. You have to approach any type of coordination building groove or exercise with an attitude of patient repetition, knowing that this might take a while. You've got to approach it with a patient mindset, patient attitude, knowing that it might take a while. Because ultimately what creates coordination, what breaks down roadblocks to us being able to play freely on the kit is just logging the time, spending the time with our instrument. As corny as this metaphor might be, it's just like if you have a best friend or you have a spouse or someone that you're in a relationship with, you didn't just meet that person and instantly feel comfortable with them. It took time. You had to build that relationship, which takes time inevitably. Unless you have one of those crazy love at first sight stories, then it probably took some time for you to become comfortable enough with one another. And it's kind of, you might think this is cheesy, but it's kind of the same way with drums where you have to really spend time with your instrument and get to know it and become comfortable with it. That way it becomes an extension of you. It becomes a part of your brain as a musician, as a drummer, and you're just using it to throw your ideas out there. And in order to be free and fluid and expressive in that way, you have to log a lot of time on the drum set. And so coordination doesn't just happen overnight. Small improvements might happen through practice sessions and through gigs and through weeks and months. But those big breakthroughs and achieving that freedom on the kit that we want to achieve, where we're just improvising and we're expressing ourselves and putting our ideas out there, that's where we all want to be, but that doesn't just happen quickly. It takes time. But what I want to get at here, and what I'm kind of the concept I want to shed some light on that maybe you haven't necessarily thought of, is that by spending significant time on any given song, groove, or exercise, you are building coordination, especially when you're focused on methodical repetition. So what I'm saying here is that you don't have to only practice coordination exercises, which I'm going to give you some of. You don't have to only practice coordination exercises. You can use anything to build that comfort on the drum set. Because as you're spending time just playing things that are even simple, like playing a basic groove, you're becoming more and more comfortable. And that comfort on the drum set, honestly, comfort is just another word for coordination. You're building that coordination, which is building the comfort, or you're building the comfort, which actually is coordination. And so by playing along to your favorite record over and over, you're building coordination. By playing along to that favorite coordination exercise every day, you're obviously building coordination as you do that over and over again. Or by playing a 3-hour or a 4-hour cover gig with your band, you're really building coordination. That's the thing we got to keep in mind here, that playing music is actually helping solidify all this. Yes, we want to practice coordination exercises at the kit and be intentional about challenging our brains that way. But to really master these things, to really reach comfort and fluidity and expressiveness, it takes time. And when you're playing along with your favorite songs, playing a record front to back, just jamming out in your bedroom, or playing a 3-hour cover gig, that helps accelerate that because of the amount of time you're putting into that. Playing music helps you log the hours, spend the time with your kit that you wouldn't otherwise spend. Because I don't recommend sitting there for 3 hours playing the same coordination exercise. That's you're gonna eventually hit a wall because that's boring. And we're not robots. We're not playing the drums to level up, to beat this level, to beat the coordination exercise and move on to the next one. That's not the point. We want to play music. And so use that to your advantage. Learn songs, play records front to back, spend a lot of time playing music because that's fun and that's creative and that's what it's all about. Knowing that that is actually building your comfort at the kit and therefore building your coordination. That's the mindset shift that has to happen. We have to be willing to spend time. If you're not in this for the long haul, then you're probably not going to build much coordination. You're going to be stuck here for a long time if you're not willing to actually put in the time to master these things. There are quick hacks for improving the sound of your drums. You can put better heads on your kit. You can tune your drums well in a few seconds. You can adjust your bass drum pedal to play faster. You can adjust your hi-hat stand so it feels better. You can adjust the angles of things and where things are placed on your kit. There are quick little hacks that will make things feel better and will improve your sound. You can even work on little nuances of grip that'll get you rapid results, and those things are all good. But when it comes down to it, if you want to master the instrument, you have to spend time on it. You have to be willing to commit to this for the long haul and say, all right, I'm actually gonna master coordination and know that it can't happen in 10 minutes a day. It can't happen in 2 little practice sessions a week where I'm working a coordination exercise. You've got to really log some time on it, which might mean an hour a day. That's not too little. If you spend time like playing through your favorite record every day, that's huge. Even 30 minutes a day is massive. If you do 30 minutes a day and spend some time playing songs, that's awesome because that consistent repetition is huge. But the more you can stack onto that and the more you can play at church, play with a cover band, that just accelerates that so much because of the time and repetition that you're spending with your instrument. And then the way to intentionally take this to the next level is to work on building dynamic independence, which is where you're playing a groove and you're actually thinking about how loud is the kick, how loud is the snare, how loud is the hi-hat, and you're working on practicing shifting your ear from one thing to another. So it might mean you're playing something like this. You say to yourself, all right, I'm gonna make the hi-hat louder without changing the volumes over here. Or make the hi-hat softer. While trying to keep the kick and the snare the same, that's hard. But it's building your ability to create different dynamics with each limb independently. Maybe the kick needs to be louder. Or maybe you want the kick softer and the snare louder. Practice phasing from one to the other. Practice shifting your ear from one thing to another, listening specifically to each of those elements. Because that's kind of the underrated aspect of coordination, that there's an aural aspect of that. There's an aural layer where if you aren't able to listen to each limb independently, then it's hard to fully be in control of them. Because you've got to control your dynamics. You've got to mix yourself, make sure the kick is loud enough, make sure the snare feels right and the cymbals aren't too loud, et cetera, et cetera. And which is a big part of playing for the room. When you're playing in a small room, when you're playing a gig, you want to think about how you sound. And so there's a coordination layer for that, of paying attention to how you sound on top of playing different rhythms and doing different things with different limbs. And a lot of that comes into place naturally when you're playing songs, but you can accelerate this by being intentional and just saying, all right, I'm going to play a basic beat. And I'm going to spend, I'm going to play this nonstop for 10 minutes. And I'm going to spend a minute listening to the hi-hat and then a minute listening to the kick. And I'm going to practice changing those dynamics independently. Like, let's see how soft I can get the kick without changing the hand volume. It's hard to do. Like, this is not an easy thing, but if you can make yourself do that and be able to phase back and forth between them, that builds that oral coordination and that connection, your ear's connection with your limbs in a much deeper way, which helps so much with this stuff. Keeping all that in mind, that kind of sets the stage for, all right, let's get nitty gritty. Here's some specific things you can work on. First, I want to just share with you my favorite method books for building coordination. These are things that my first drum set teacher in high school worked through with me that I continue to practice and that I use with many of my one-on-one students. My three favorite methods are Realistic Rock by Carmine and Peace, Syncopation by Ted Reed, and the Jim Chapin book. I just call it the Chapin book. It's called Advanced Techniques for the Modern Drummer by Jim Chapin. And so these are three what I would consider classic legendary methods. Realistic Rock was one of the earliest rock methods out there that I'm aware of. It's been around since the early 70s. Syncopation by Ted Reed was from the 30s, originally intended as a snare drum method that drum set players have taken and adapted to the drum set, and so it's become a very versatile method. And then the Chapin book was the early four-way independence book. Like way back in the day, that was the method that you worked through if you wanted to learn how to play jazz drums and build the coordination. So it's a very step-by-step method of, all right, here's how you do it, which is really cool. I would recommend all three of these, but I want to break these down so that you know where you might want to start. Maybe you already have some of these books. Maybe you've gotten them on a shelf somewhere, and maybe you've never really opened them or you've never dug into them. But Realistic Rock is a great method to start in if you're new to method books, for one thing, because it's rock-based. It's very straightforward. It makes sense, and it's also versatile at the same time. The first groove in the book is... And then you can start manipulating that in different ways. And you can do different things with the left foot, like closing the left foot on 2 and 4. Or you could do ands. You could do quarters with the right hand. Or maybe right hand on the ands and left foot on the quarters. And so there's all these different variations you can apply to all these different quarter note bass grooves, eighth note bass grooves, 16th grooves, and so on. The book just builds and builds. So it's a great way to start, even if you don't know notation, because you'll get the hang of it. And I love the way the notation is done in this book. I like everything about Realistic Rock. It's a great method. Great way to start if you want to just build some coordination, start working the left foot into grooves, and get really solid with rock drumming, build some vocabulary, and ultimately build the ability to improvise between kick and snare while playing something with the right hand and with the left foot, because that's where we want to get. And what my teacher ended up doing with me and what I've done with a lot of my students, once we get to that point where you can improvise between kick and snare, so maybe something like this. Where we've got a set pattern going on with right hand and left foot, and then just any randomness between kick and left hand. When you've gotten that ability, then it's a great time to jump into Syncopation by Ted Reed, where we can then deepen that by doing swing or by doing Latin. It's a very versatile method that basically you take a rhythm and we figure out how many different places around the kit we could play that rhythm. And so we can do a swing context, we can do a Latin context. I have a video here on the channel breaking this down, and so there's a link in the description. Go check it out if you want to see just a great overview of some of the best ways to practice Syncopation by Ted Reed. Beyond the scope of this lesson, because I want to make sure I give it to you in detail, so go check out that video if you want to know more. Advanced Techniques by Jim Chapin is cool because it's very specific and step-by-step. It's not as versatile, though you could play some of the things different ways. It's more, here's what you do in this step, here's what you do in this step, more of a note by note, exercise by exercise, but it's a great method for building intricacy and precision with the left hand comping in a jazz context like this. And playing things like that and really developing full freedom and agility with the left hand and also with the right foot, because you can play those same things that way. And so this method complements syncopation. I think ultimately it's a little bit more challenging than syncopation, but it's a great next step. Once you've started getting your speed up and really built some solid coordination through realistic rock and then syncopation, the Chapin book is a great place to go next because it is very challenging. The legend back in the day when Jim Chapin wrote it was that he had to carry a pair of sticks in his back pocket everywhere he went because drummers would come up to him and be like, man, this stuff's impossible to play. I don't believe you can play it. And so he always had to be ready to whip out his sticks and say, yes, this is how you play it. And so some of the stuff in the Chapin book was believed to be impossible to play back when the book came out, which is pretty crazy because nowadays, four-way coordination is just, that's something we do as drummers. That's something we have to do. But back then, it wasn't as common of a thing, and so a lot of people were like, this is hard. Do I really need to do this? And as the art and musicality of drumming developed over time, drummers have gotten more and more coordinated, and yes, we do need to do this. We need to develop our four-way coordination. So they're tough. They're not viewed as impossible anymore, but they are challenging. I recommend if you're new to drumming and you're new to notation, start with realistic rock, and then if you want to get into jazz and Latin, dig into syncopation. Check out my video on the channel about breaking down syncopation if you're into that. And also I have a video breaking down stick control, which is another great method that you can also check out. But now I want to share with you a little more about this free method that I also alluded to earlier. Just a totally free thing I'm going to throw at you that you can dig into that kind of gives you the best of all of these in a concise, step-by-step way. That free method is none other than my guide that I told you about earlier, the 3-part daily practice routine. And the way this guide works, if you're familiar with my material or you've heard me talk about this before, I believe that the 3 key components to a successful, well-balanced practice session are hand technique, coordination, and music. And so this guide breaks all of that down. And so in the guide, it's like a 17-page guide, something like that. It's pretty in-depth. There's some pages there. But the first section, we talk about hand technique, and there's some photos of grip, and we talk about what needs to be happening with your grip. But we spend a lot of time in this guide talking about coordination, and I give you all these specific exercises you can test out and just totally different approaches to building coordination. And basically what I'm doing, there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new and groundbreaking and innovative and revolutionary in this guide. It's just me taking the best of my favorite methods I've worked through, putting my version of it out there that I think makes sense and is most digestible for most students, and putting it in there, giving it to you for free. And so in that coordination section, we have some grooves that we approach them like in realistic rock, and we do some different left foot stuff. We have some syncopation kind of patterns. There's a whole exercise there at the end of the coordination section that is literally like an excerpt from syncopation. I made it up, but it's very much like what you would find in Ted Reed's syncopation, and I show you all the different ways you can play it and how versatile it is. So that alone is powerful, and that'll give you months and years worth of stuff to practice. But what's cool about this is that it saves you time and it saves you some money. Number one, you don't need to order these method books I mentioned. You can. I'm definitely not going to say not to. Go for it. And here in November 2021, as I'm filming this, I've heard that there is quite a long wait time on realistic rock. And if you order realistic rock, you might not get it for a while because of supply chain shortages, etc. I don't know about syncopation and advanced techniques. When you're ordering physical books like this, it might take some time to get it. My guide, you can have right now for free because it's a PDF, it's digital, the beauty of digital. And so this guide gives you the best of all of this for free, step by step, so that literally you're hitting these key aspects of these 3 methods all in this one condensed method, streamlined for you, so that you can know that you're practicing coordination some of the best ways possible. You're using some of the most powerful methods to build your 4-way limb independence. Plus, you've got the section on hand technique and the section on musicality. And so you can make sure you're assembling a well-balanced practice session, because ultimately the best thing I can do for you as your teacher is help you practice well so that you can be your own teacher, so you can be critiquing yourself and making progress and reaching success after success without me being there in the room with you. I want to give you all the resources you need. I want to give you the tools you need. And this guide is such a great tool. So go download it. It's a no-brainer. Go download it. It's in the description right there. Know what to practice, make faster progress in less time, structure your practice sessions, and reach your goals. This is how you reach your drumming dreams in the midst of a busy life, how you gain confidence because you know you're practicing the skills that really matter. You know you're not missing something. You know you're not missing some key aspect of practicing. So there's no more wondering. You can practice knowing that, all right, I'm doing it. I'm practicing what I need to practice, and I can be confident that I'm going to get results from it. You can also fix your weak hand. There's a lot of great tips for fixing that weak hand and really practicing left hand. You can also learn my 5 biggest tips for playing musically, for learning songs, for playing songs musically. And most importantly, you'll stop wasting time stuck in a rut because this gives you exactly what you need to know to practice, which is huge. We don't want to be stuck on a plateau. We don't want to be stuck in a rut. We always want to be growing, and this guide's going to help you do that. So I hope I've sold you on my free guide that's a no-brainer that you can go grab in the description that will give you the best of those 3 classic methods I told you about. If you want to buy those methods, go for it, but you can have my guide right now, and it's going to give you the key core things that you need right now to really get rolling with this. Also, check out my video on breaking down the syncopation method and really explaining how you can practice that as well. It's kind of a companion to the guide in a way. So take action, dig into those resources. If you do that, I know you're going to grow. I know you're going to get results, which I can't wait to hear about. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out today. Thanks for being a fellow non-glamorous drummer, a fellow action taker, someone who is ready to get nitty-gritty and learn all the details and learn the painful truths and the things that we've got to know, we've got to understand in order to master our instrument. I always want to give you the drumming truths. I always want to give you the truth and be honest with you so that you know exactly what's up, exactly what you need to work on, exactly how to practice this stuff. And so you should be very well equipped at this point. You should be very well equipped to go and reach some serious success here. If this video helped you out, be sure to subscribe. Know that you can do this. You can build your 4-way coordination. All you got to do is commit to the long haul, commit to spending time on it, commit to working on this stuff and having fun, spending time at your instrument, playing music. That is how you accomplish this. You can reach your goals, you can reach your dreams, you can become the pro-sounding drummer that you know you're meant to be, that you are called to be. You can fulfill and live out that purpose. I believe in you. Hope you believe in yourself because you've got the tools, you've got the resources you need, so you are fully equipped. So go for it, go and accomplish some great things on the drums. Thanks for watching. Stay non-glamorous. I will see you on the next lesson.